So on the 10th of March, the 2024 Oscars will be hosted. And like everybody, I'm interested in seeing who wins. But in today's video, since this is a cinematography channel, we'll be looking at the 5 movies that are nominated for Best Cinematography in 2024. But before we go any further, we have to define what is cinematic. And who am I to answer that when we have artificial intelligence that can help?
Cinematic refers to anything related to or reminiscent of the art or style of cinema, movies or films. It often implies qualities such as dramatic lighting, captivating visuals, immersive sound design, compelling storytelling, and a sense of grandeur of scale, similar to what one might experience in a movie theater. In various contexts, it can describe films, photographs, music, video games, or other forms of media that evoke the aesthetics or atmosphere commonly associated with cinema.
Well, that doesn't really help. Okay, what is...
To a layman, cinema refers to movies or films that are shown in theaters or on screens, whether large or small. It encompasses the entire experience of watching movies, including the storytelling, visual, sound, and emotional impact. Cinema is often seen as a form of entertainment or art that allows people to escape reality, experience different worlds, and connect with characters and stories. It's the medium through which stories are brought to life through moving images, dialogue, music, and sound effects. Overall, cinema is a way for people to experience a wide range of emotions, explore different perspectives, and be entertained.
This leaves me with a lot of more questions, all right? If this is what cinema is, how do we determine the best cinematography?
The criteria of determining the winner of the best cinematography category at the Oscars Academy Awards generally involves evaluating several elements of the visual storytelling in a film. While the exact criteria can be subjective and may vary slightly by voter to voter, here are some common factors. Visual aesthetics. Judges assess the overall visual appeal of the film, including composition, lighting, color palette, and use of camera movement. They look for cinematography that enhances the storytelling and creates a visually stunning experience for the audience. Technical mastery. The skill and craftsmanship of the cinematographer in using camera equipment and techniques to achieve desired effect are important. This includes expertise in camera operation, lens choice, framing, focus, and exposure control. Emotional impact. Cinematography that effectively conveys the mood, atmosphere, and emotional depth of the story is highly valued. Innovative approaches, consistency, collaboration. The collaboration between the cinematographer and other members of filmmaking team, including the director, production design, visual effects, is often considered. Ultimately, the winner of the Best Cinematography Oscar is determined through a voting process by members of Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences, who are typically professionals working in the film industry. While personal preferences and bias may play a role in individual voting decisions, the criteria above generally.
Okay, so this is according to our new friends at Artificial Intelligence of how we determine Oscar winners. So in this video, we're going to break down the 5, and then I'm going to tell you who I think is going to win or should win, in my opinion, using that criteria. The first movie that we'll talk about of our nominations, which is a fan favorite, I'm assuming, is Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer, for me, it was, I don't want to say it was a revolutionary movie in terms of cinematography, because it wasn't, but it was an amazing movie in terms of cinematography. The things that those guys did were phenomenal, and when you start to think about the conditions and the technology and things like that that they used, then it's a phenomenal movie, I think anytime Christopher Nolan releases a movie, I learn more about IMAX than I knew before. I remember when Tenet came, that's when IMAX for me became a big thing in my life. Like, I was like, what is this thing? And I had to learn about it. And then Tenet, Oppenheimer was the first time me going to see a movie in IMAX, and what an experience. And I think that's something that these guys were able to create. Whilst I didn't like the sound design because it was just too much, I enjoyed my experience. It wasn't a regrettable experience at all. I think some of the things that they did in terms of cinematography, like how they would have Emily Blunt behind Cillian Murphy in her in the interrogation, for me, that was something that I caught, and that was something that helped with the storytelling in terms of just her emotional responses behind him, because she was acting and she was in it, and just the way that they framed the film is something phenomenal. I'll share with you some of the photos one of the things that I liked in Oppenheimer was the framing. So you see here with Cillian Murphy how they always had him center framed, which is something that I think was phenomenal on their behalf. I don't know why it does this, but yeah, like even in the black and white, everything just looked amazing. The framing, for me, Hoyte did an amazing job. Like, I do understand they had some challenges, but in this shot, like where stuff looks out of focus, but the focus is on the girl behind. And I think their decision making was pretty wise, because I think there was an issue with you cannot frame people in the wide margins because of the format that they were shooting in. And this was the first time that an IMAX codec was made at this level, like a 65, 70 mil. It didn't exist before they made Oppenheimer. So from the criteria that we learned that the Oscars used to choose, I think that they ticked a lot of those boxes. And this is the framing which I was talking about with Emily Blunt behind Cillian Murphy, where I feel like they did such an amazing job because that assisted with the storytelling. There were some amazing shots, like these shots where you can tell like just who's the most important person here. Other than that, do I feel like I think Oppenheimer, rightfully so, is up there in terms of the best cinematography. They did an amazing job, and yeah, let me know what you think. Would Oppenheimer rightfully win the Oscar in your opinion? Like, I think Hoyte always does an amazing job. Like I said, they didn't do anything whereby I would say it's visually transforming with something that we have not seen before. It's stuff that we've seen before, but the equipment and technology that they use to make it is stuff that we have never seen before, and it's an experience that we never had before. Some people would say it's not really the best in terms of that. Like, why would you go there and fix something that's not broken? But I think the goal is to push yourself and to create something new that the next generation of filmmakers can create. And this is phenomenal. Chris Nolan is one of my favorite directors, so we don't want to start a debate. We're going to be talking about Killers of the Flower Moon, cinematography by the one and only Rodrigo Prieto. Now, speaking of Rodrigo, I feel like last year was a good year for him. You know, the work that he did in Barbie was phenomenal. And Killers of the Flower Moon, what a picture, you know. Killers of the Flower Moon is a story that tells a story. It's a story about the people of the Osage that comes from a book directed by the one and only Martin Scorsese. And this is I want to say the second time, but this is the second movie that I've watched by these two guys working together. The first one being The Irishman. Now, this movie for me it was visually appealing, and I felt like the cinematography served the story. It helped tell the story. It was like the eyes of the audience. It felt as if we were there when they were filming it. It felt like we were part of the experience. It didn't feel like, hey, this information has been captured, now watch it. For me at least, I felt there. So to highlight some of the shots that I like that they used will come. You know, I really like a lot of times how they had Lily Gladstone in there. Like, if you look at this frame, just how the people in the background are blurred out, and then you have Leo over here, but she is definitely the center of attraction. And just how they put here, you have this light on her face where you cannot avoid it, and you can see it hitting just these blankets that she has, and they really made her be the star that she is. And I liked how it took you back to that time, right? This is like in the 1920s, 30s. I'm not really sure about the time, so don't quote me on that. But some of the framing was just ridiculously good, man. Like, look at this shot whereby it's darkness into the abyss, and it's just about these two, and that symbolism of what's happening in that moment. Like how innocent Leo was when he was with De Niro, and just how he understood what was being said. Like, there's a lot of subtext in this film, which I feel is phenomenal. And, you know, a lot of times we are taught about power distribution. How do you show power within a frame? Right now, you see Leo, he's hunched down. Man, like, the details, Leo is hunched down. You have De Niro just sitting there, and then you have the brother. And these two people are more forceful than him. And, you know, and it's like frame by frame, man. Each frame just tells a story. We know what's about to happen. He has to fall in love with a girl. And for me, the thing that made this story so impactful is just how it came together, right? Like how his feelings for her were there before his uncle came into the story, and how all that was captured. And to know that this was on an anamorphic, what camera type did they even use? It doesn't say. Oh, they used the Aricam LT. So this was shot on film, I'm assuming. That's beyond amazing, man. Like just the composition that Rodrigo had in this film is phenomenal. This is like frame within a frame, and the acting helps. The acting really does help. Like look at this. For me, the lighting in this film is everything. Just look at this, like the contrast, everything. It tells the story, and it's effective. The darkness, everything is just there. I think in Killers of the Flower Moon, everything was almost perfect because these guys have been doing it for a long time, right? So like there's not much you can complain about. I think this film, in my opinion, if it won an Oscar, I wouldn't complain about it, like especially for best cinematography, because it did what it had to do. It was effective at the storytelling. The story was touching, and I don't think there were any moments where you felt like the camera is taking you out. The camera did what it had to do, and they used some bit of CGI, but everything had a purpose. The lighting, everything had a purpose. Like when you look at this frame, you have these two women, but you can tell who your eye is supposed to be on. Like this is just phenomenal, man. One of those that came out of nowhere that I didn't know about until the Oscars came out was El Conde, and I had to watch it. First thing that obviously hits you is it's in black and white. So you're like, whoa, where did this come from? And I learned that they shot it all in black and white. So this wasn't like shot in color and then turned into black and white. It was already black and white. And I think that's an amazing thing. I've seen people shoot in black and white and then just do what they have to do. And I think that's amazing because I color graded one film where we went from color to black and white to hide some of the things that were happening. And that's never a good idea. Whereas when the film is just from the get-go set up for that, I think that's a beautiful thing. And in this one, the camera plays a role because it's a form of comedy. It's like a satirical, ironical type of comedy whereby the story is basically about this vampire of a president who kills his people for their blood and in order for him to live. And it's like he doesn't die. He's a detective type of person. And in the comedy, in that vampiristic type of comedy, there's reality, there's realism of that. These are the things that people feel, these people probably feel, and the irony of that, And it's a phenomenal watch. If you haven't watched it, I recommend you do because it's a phenomenal movie. So we'll just look into some frames. For me, frames like this, man, it's like, come on. There's nothing more beautiful. Look at how the roll-off happens. Look at what's in focus. The eye, everything tells you there's something about to happen in this frame, and that's just how the story is told. Some of the framing that they used, and sometimes like when you study, you're like, what's going on? But everything is there. Everything is there to highlight a story. You have this guy. They discover he's a vampire. He kills everybody. He runs away to Chile. And then he takes over. So let's move. I mean, look at these frames, man. Like the way the soldiers in frame and how the shot is just composed. It's phenomenal. I grew up in a country with one president for almost 37 years. And trust me, my memory of that was something like this, where you have this able-bodied man standing behind him and he's just there. This guy looks like Hitler. I don't know what's happening, but what? And then so the thing that happens is the guy, once his crimes start catching up with him, he fakes his own death and then comes back to life. But he's at a point whereby he wants to die, so he stops sucking people's blood, but he still can't die, even in death. And one thing that I liked about this film was in these scenes where he would fly away, like it's obviously CGI, but it looks so real. It looks like they made it. And I listened to the cinematographer speak about it, and he was like, some of the stunts they actually did them with just putting people on cables, like old school stuff. Like it's not blue screen. I think only one shot was blue screen. So that is phenomenal. It's also whereby the camera is used to tell the story. So I'm trying to find the scenes where the girl, the nun, comes in. I think the way that she was framed, like if you can look here, the way she's framed, we all have all these people where she falls away in the frame, but we can still tell who the most important person we're supposed to be looking at is here. You can see, like, in terms of production design, how her thing is like here, and we can see her face and how this person is like that, you know. And that's just like, even here, you already can tell she's this one, and that's just by everything that they did. And I really liked some of the framing that they did. If you look into this sort of framing where you have leading lines and then you have him in the middle and center frame like that, it's beautiful. And then when the nuns make it, or this is when the kids come home, this backlighting, man, like, this film is amazing. If you haven't watched it, I really do recommend that you watch it. You know, you might not understand the story, I get it, but it's a phenomenal watch. It's at the end when the girl comes where you have shots like this. For me, this is phenomenal framing, whereby we see into the abyss, but our focus is on the main ground here, on the character, where she's the foreground. And in cinematography, they always tell you want to create a 3D image, and this is, for me, a three-dimensional image that's telling quite a lot in the story. You know, he's looking at her, and she knows the danger that she's in. You know, like this, like, come on. I love this film. I just love the way that they framed it, and they did everything black and white. Everything shared a story, and none falling in love, just showing you how corruptible people are, even with the best of intentions, you know, and how when this guy was out, he had to come back in the game because of love and because of a young woman. So yeah, I think, yeah, if this film won the Oscar as well, like, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, the world would be shocked, but I wouldn't be shocked. I think they did a phenomenal job. I've watched my fair share of movies to be shocked, but 2023 was amazing. I watched Saltburn, and that movie freaked me out. This movie is up there. Poor Things is it's a great story. You just have to. I don't even think you have to hang in there. I think it's captivating from the beginning. You know, it's a form of comedy. It's something different. The storyline, the structure of it is crazy, because, you know, it's a grown person with a fetus's brain, but the fetus develops at an increased pace, which is great. But then it's what happens when you have a child in a grown person's body, the naivety of a child and with the access and abilities of a grown person, that combination, you know. So it makes it phenomenal. In this movie, the camera acts as a character, you know. It feels as if, for us, the audience, we are there, we are with them, we are in the moment, we are engaged, and in every movement, every framing, everything about it tells you, you know, it already tells you it's a movie. It already tells you things are weird, you know, let's go for the ride. And I think for me, this movie is the last one that I watched of the top 5 of the 5 nominated movies, and rightfully so. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think it was pretty amazing. Everything that they did, the acting, Emma Stone is amazing, like, you know, in terms of just acting and letting go, because I think this is one of those things where you can be very self-conscious about acting in such a movie, but she let go, and that worked, and she helped the cinematographers work well. Everybody was phenomenal. I liked the framing. I liked how they used the space that they were in. I liked the different uses of lenses, the lens choices. Like, in individual shots, you had moments whereby the only thing that you're seeing is the bokeh behind them and just how pretty it is. Unfortunately, it's not on shot deck, so we cannot really see, but like this framing, like, you're like, yo, what just happened? But they just used everything in their power that they could use in this film. You know, you had this framing of the goats. Like, I like the symbolism of what was up to happen in the back. Listen, is this a dark one? there's a dark on a goat's body. It's stuff like that. Like this movie, the production design is crazy. Everything is just amazing in this film. The choice of the lens, everything that they did, everything highlighted the story. And for me, in this movie, you really understand the power of cinematography, the art of cinematography. And what I think in this movie, we start to understand why sometimes people are called cinematographers and sometimes people are called the directors of photography, because you're directing photography. You are telling a story with photography. This movie, for me, man, it just hits every point. Like, let's talk about the 3 dimensions in filmmaking. You have this man, foreground. You have this lady, background. You have this in the midground. You have everything in a frame. Like, come on, man. Like, what else do you want from a cinematographer in terms of just storytelling? And the acting was crazy. This movie is phenomenal. For me, I enjoyed it. Think of what you want with the story itself, the primary story, but everything else about the film is phenomenal. Let's talk about Maestro. So Matthiew Libatique is up there for me as best DPs of all time. The man's work is ridiculously good. It's always phenomenal every time you watch the movies he made. The Star is Born is something that I haven't forgotten because of the way it was shot. In this movie, Maestro, man, the way that they shot it, the way that, despite the story, just what he went for, the choices, the lens, when the camera is far, when the camera is close, how the camera moves, the lighting, every decision making, the naturalistic look of the film is fundamental to it. I think everything made sense. The way Carey Mulligan was just acting, like the acting was phenomenal, and the acting had to be captured in a way that showed you what she was doing, the emotions that she was carrying. And I think these things were carried through, the decisions, the subtext, everything was just put into light by how the film was shot and how we move from the black and white scenes to the color scenes. For me, it doesn't, the point of it was to show you the differences in time, but it doesn't feel as if you've moved from it. It's like you're still watching the same movie and you carry it with you. And I think it was a very beautiful movie. So let's check out some frames from Maestro. So in these opening sequences, for me, I was a little bit confused, but it is what it is. We walk with them. The framing, if you're looking at this is a long lens, and then you have him feeling the frame. The lighting, it looks naturalistic, but it probably isn't. And then here you have a crew, you have the lighting frame. Look at just how it's diffused. That's amazing for me. Part of this story, in my understanding, was they were showing the rise of this guy, Lenny Bennett. Okay, I don't want to butcher his last name. They were showing his rise, and if you know music from old school, he's a very popular figure, and that was the point of it. And then I didn't know him, so that's why I probably can't spell his name. But what the story was, this musical genius, he was also secretly gay, and that's what the story is. And that was just highlighted by everything that they did. Man, look at this backlight and how he's silhouetted by the wall is well lit. Like, man, Matthiew Libatique, man, is a phenom. And the performances, look at this. Like, the actors are giving you something and the camera is just there to capture it. And that's what I liked about Maestro. It was long for me to watch, sometimes painful, but I think it highlighted what it wanted to showcase. Look at this framing, man. Like, I don't know why when you're screen recording, Short Deck does this, but look at this. It's beautiful. I don't know why. It's like they know I'm recording. It's like, look at this, man. Look at this framing. They are silhouetted, and man, what else do you want from a DOP? Like, what more can I say, baby? The acting in this movie was ridiculously good. The camera movements were great. The framing, the love between them developing. You almost believe these people are in love for real. Look at the way she looks at him. Like, some actors are just amazing, man. Like, the way they sell the story, you have to be in it. You just have to be in it. In the color sequences, the production design, you can have the best production design, but if you have a shitty cinematographer, that goes away. But not in this film. Like, 3-dimensional filming. Look at the lighting. Like, you have darkness, light, darkness. Everything is there. Not much to complain about. This is a phenomenal movie. If you haven't watched it, go watch it for yourself, man. Some of the things that they did in this movie was crazy. I mean, this film is amazing. If you haven't watched it, I recommend watching it. Maestro, Matthiew Libatique. I mean, if this guy wins the award, I won't be shocked as well, because from a technical perspective, he did what you're supposed to do. Perfectly honest with you, anybody can win these Oscars. I think all 5 movies are phenomenally shot. If I had to choose, I would go with Poor Things. I think in their cinematography helped tell a story. For some people, they don't like that. For me, it did, and I liked it. How they used it, I think it was amazing. I like the framing. I like the short compositions, and I just liked, because it's a weird movie, and the camera acted weirdly as well, which helped tell the story narratively wise, and which helped with pacing, which helped with everything that they went for. That's the movie that I'll give Best Cinematography Award. I mean, I can see it going to Oppenheimer. Some of the stuff that they did in there was ridiculously crazy. Just how big that camera is and how difficult it should have been on set using it. Some of the things they did with the bomb, like, knowing Christopher Nolan, everything is done in cameras. Some of the work that they did was amazing. And then also when you look at El Conde, I think it felt, for me, El Conde felt like that old school. Like a lot of times people are trying to emulate film from old school. It just felt like it was shot in an old school type of way, and the vibe and the storytelling and the comedy in it. Like, so even if it won, I wouldn't be shocked. Maestro, it was shot by the Maestro himself as well. Matthiew Libatique. I feel like everything with that movie was great. And then Killers of the Flower Moon, what can I say? Lily Gladstone's delivery in that thing was amazing, man. Even Leo, even De Niro. So any of the movies can win this. I don't think there's such a thing as best cinematography, to be honest, because it's very subjective to what you like and what you felt the camera did. I think it's there to celebrate and to showcase that people appreciate what cinematographers and everybody in the camera department does. And in the end of the day, it's all a collaboration. It's all about coming together. You can have the best camera, but if you have shitty actors, it doesn't mean much. You can have the best camera if you have shitty production design, it doesn't mean much. A shitty story, everything like that. So at the end of the day, congratulations to whoever wins. Like I said, I'm not rooting for anyone, but for me, if I was the one to vote, I would have voted for Poor Things. Who would you have voted for? Let me know in the comment section. See you in the next one.